Turn up the dive, feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's so I remember right. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, the secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild member ride. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the Untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Spectrum. I am your host, Barnaby Jones from Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, and we are live today here on the Untold Radio Network. That's right, guys. We are live in the studio. Lee Warner, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us, and you are right. It is a very sad week again for our community, for the Bigfoot community. This week we mourn the loss of Scott Violet from Squatch America. He is a former multi-time guest on my other show, and he recently passed away this week. So very, very sad news in the community this week, as well as, this has been a rough year. A lot of good researchers heading down. So don't want to start off the show on a bad note, but yeah, there you go. All right, guys. Well, we got some events coming up this weekend. The Van Meter Visitor Festival, Saturday, September 27th, the Veterans Reception Center, Van Meter, Illinois. We are going to be down there. I'm going to be doing a presentation on Dogman encounters throughout history. Going to be a great time. The one and only Chad Lewis is going to be down there leading the tours of the city where all the Van Meter visitor sightings happened. Over I believe it was a 6-day period in town where they saw this flying reptilian dinosaur creature with a white beam of light on top of its head. Very weird encounter. So if you guys are anywhere in Van Meter, Iowa, come out and check that out. We will be down there on Saturday. And then, guys, coming up this October, we are happy to announce that we have paranormal investigations. Come on out and investigate with the CAPS team at Wisconsin's premier haunted gentlemen's club, Macville, Wisconsin. Bean Snappers. It is over 100 years of haunted history. The building was passed down for 4 generations before being finally sold outside of its original building family for the first time in 1993 to its current owners. The building was featured on the television series My Haunted Hometown and has had the gambit of paranormal activity, everything from full-bodied apparitions being touched, being scratched, EVPs, and every piece of equipment in that building going off. You name it, we got it. More information at hauntedbeansnappers.com. You can get public investigations or get yourself a private investigation for you and your team. If you want all things more spooky, I am going to be at the Shawano County Library here in Wisconsin on October 16th, the Brownsville Public Library on October 22nd, and the Neenah Public Library on October 25th. All these presentations are going to be exploring the paranormal. So we're going to give you a good background on everything from how to use the equipment, what to look for, how to do an investigation, everything to get you started. And then, guys, we are going to be doing public investigations of the libraries following that presentation. So if you guys want to come out on a free investigation with us in Shawano, Brownsville, or Neenah, we are going to be investigating the libraries as well. I know for a fact that the Brownsville Library and the Shawano Library have reported paranormal activity already, so it's going to be a great time if you're interested. Coming up next year, we are going to be at the Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in Delavan, Wisconsin, and Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, May 8th through the 9th for CapCon, Wisconsin. With that being said, guys, it is awesome. We have a great guest here. Let's get to that. All right, guys, I love guests that are able to transfer between the two shows. If you guys are a fan of Monsters on the Edge on Mondays as well, my other show, Timothy Gayheart has already been on that show talking about all of his research and experience with Bigfoot in Ohio. He is the founder of the Ohio Bigfoot Researchers, and he joins us again now because he has a lot of other paranormal and weird encounters to share. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Tim Gayheart. Tim, welcome back.
Well, thank you, Barnabas, for having me back on.
It is my pleasure, man. I've been looking forward to hearing some of your other stories. Your Bigfoot interview on the other show was absolutely amazing. Some of the stuff that you have encountered and seen in the Bigfoot realm and researched already, and you've only been doing this for a short time, like officially Bigfooting. So it's really cool that you've had all these experiences and sightings and pictures and stuff already. So I highly recommend, if anybody has missed that interview, to go check it out, because we're gonna head down some spookier roads today, right?
Yeah, we got a lot of things that's happened since I've been a child till nowadays, till day.
Awesome. Well, let us get started here. We are live, guys. So if you guys have any questions or comments as we go through the show, throw them in the comments, and we will get them in here. But Tim, tell us where did all this start? You said that on the last episode you talked about being out in the woods, growing up and stuff, and having encounters with things, hearing things, seeing things that you couldn't explain that weren't even Bigfoot. So tell us where we're going to start today.
Well, I was born in Ohio, but we moved to eastern part of Kentucky when I was probably 3.5, almost 4 years old. So yeah, I was raised in the hills, in the woods, learned how to hunt, live off the land. I was taught the old ways and stuff, and yeah, I've had some weird experiences. I had dreams even before I even knew what a Bigfoot was. I never the TV when you're in the eastern part of Kentucky, you usually only get one channel from an antenna outside, and you didn't get very much information for anything like cryptids or anything like this. You're talking early 70s and stuff, so it wasn't very popular at all back then. So I never even seen a picture of a Bigfoot until I was probably in the 8th grade, which would have been 81, 80 or 81. And one of my friends at school brought in a book. It was called Myths, Legends, and it was a TV about TV shows and vampires, werewolves, and mummies, black creature from Black Lagoon, Bigfoot, all that in it. And that was my first introduction to such thing as seeing a Bigfoot picture.
So that's really fascinating. Like, so you had dreams of Bigfoot, correct? Like Bigfoot was chasing you?
Yeah. And in them dreams, it was in the hills by where we lived is where I had them in the dreams chasing me. And the weirdest thing is though, when I go to get away from them, I'd start flying. It was just some of the craziest dreams ever. I mean, I had vivid dreams ever since I've been a kid.
That's fascinating. You know, that you've never even seen a picture of one or heard of these things, and you're having dreams about them. That goes back to the whole like past life regression and some of that stuff where people believe that, you know, when you're really young, before the world kind of, you know, narrows your perspectives and stuff, that you know about all this stuff prior to that. Have you had any like past life regression or any kind of thing like that, you know, were you a Bigfoot investigator in a past life?
I have no idea. I don't remember any of that, but I've always had the feeling that I ain't part of this world. I don't know why that is but that I got feelings like that I volunteered to come back to this world, and it's crazy stuff. I mean, I when I first started realizing this, I'm like, what is this? These thoughts that I'm getting that I volunteered to be here for some reason that I have no clue of what it is or anything. And then I've seen it here lately and stuff that on some podcasts and stuff that say, yeah, we volunteered to come back to this place. I have no clue, but I've had that feeling for many, many, many years that, and like when I was growing up and they was trying to teach that evolution crap, nah, that didn't fly in my book. I no such thing. Then even when I first started going to church when I was a young kid, and the pastors and stuff was talking about the calendar and this and that, and it didn't sit right with me. Then, like when I got older and stuff, it come back to me, and I started searching, and here the Catholic Church, Roman Catholic Church, and all them, they changed the calendar and all this and that, and then I'm like, well, what stuff is really true? What stuff can you believe that you've been taught?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's amazing. That's absolutely true. You know, I've had multiple guests on here of the metaphysical and stuff talk about when you pass away, your soul needs to learn some certain life lessons, and you agree to these soul contracts when you're in the other side, and you come back to specifically learn a lesson or specifically teach someone a lesson, or, you know, have that specific life, and you've agreed to this before you come back. And that's sounds exactly like kind of where you are, and you know, you know where you're at with that. So
It can mess with your mind. I mean,
mhm.
you're taught one thing and you're taught all your life these things, and then your mind's telling you, no, this is not what it is. This is totally different.
Mhm.
But I've had, like I said, mm, vivid dreams ever since I was back 3 or 4 years old, wherever I can remember. I was like most people when I was younger. Now I'm getting older. My memories is not as good as they used to be. But when I was younger, people would say, because I'd tell them about my childhood and stuff, and I could remember back when I was 2 years old, and they're like, "That's not realistic for people to remember back when they're that young." And I'm like, "Well, it seems like in my mind, when I do something in life, it just seems like it's a movie playing. It's not real. I mean, it's I've had like as my childhood and stuff, as I was growing up, every day was like, well, this is a movie. It feels like you're in a movie and you're watching it. And then it's some crazy stuff.
That's interesting. I've had moments like that. I can't say like my whole life, but I've had moments where you're kind of like seeing it just kind of happen around you and experiencing it. Yeah. That's weird. Huh.
Weird.
Yeah. You know, the more you dig into this stuff, you know, like it's unbelievable, the stuff that you know, but so many people, unrelated, unconnected, that haven't listened to, you know, the metaphysical stories and all that stuff, and they have these same stories. And if this was all, you know, just a story that somebody made up that people are following now, there's no way that so many people could have the same experiences, the same thoughts, the same feelings, and not know anything about this. So it really makes you stop and think, and really, you know, kind of amazing. I don't know how else to put it. It's just a weird world. So.
Yeah, it's weird. It messes with your mind too, because you're always like, did I do this? Is this really what I did? Is this real, or is this over here is something that it's hard to explain how it works. And that's like I said, I could remember back when I was 2 years old, because I was born in '66, and I can remember living in places and being at my aunts and uncles and stuff when I was probably 2. And I can still, in memory right now, I can tell you where we lived in a home out in the country in 1969. So I was only 3. I tell you, I lived in Indiana before that in 2 different places. In '68, I can tell you that, and it's just crazy.
Let me ask you this: have you experienced a lot of deja vu throughout your life?
A few times. I mean, it's like, did I dream that and now it's coming true, or did I do this before? And it's like, well, I've seen this person before, and I know I hadn't seen them before. And like, it's been in this place and seen this person, and I'm like, well, I've seen this person before and never met them in my life. And I'm like, or be somewhere and like, didn't I just do this the other day?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting, like, because if you're, you know, like you said, like the feeling of watching it as a movie, I'm wondering if you got the sense like of deja vu, like as you're watching it, having seen it before, having experienced this exact like scene, story, or whatever.
Well, I talked to a psychic online one time. It was on a podcast, and she said I was one of my previous lives. I was in the Wild West in the 1800s and something. That I was the town drunk, and I ended up getting killed in 1800 and something. And I didn't know whether to believe her or not, but well, I was raised. My family background and that there was alcoholism. Yeah, I drunk quite a bit when I was in my late teens, early 20s. Yeah, and then I broke away from that, and I stopped that. But yeah, there was in my family history of the family there was alcoholism and stuff. So if I was that was what I was supposed to come here to do, to break the chain of alcoholism in the family, or what?
Maybe. Interesting. So now we were talking before the show. You go on here to eventually like train to be a pastor. And was that like, how did that affect this? Because like a lot of the people that have had similar stories growing up like that, where you're still able to remember possibly some of your past life or anything like this weird stuff, were you raised in a religious home, or what was that like? What did that lead to becoming a pastor?
No, I was raised in a home. My mother, she was a Christian. Her family was Christian people, but my dad's side of the family, no. They were, like I said, there was alcoholism and stuff in the family tree then. But yeah, I started going to church when I was young with my mom, and but when I started to become I got baptized and stuff when I was like 13 or 14 years old. But I attended church a lot when I was younger, and then in my so it would have been mid 30s. Well, I got married in my mid 20s, and then we started going to church and stuff in my mid 30s, and I got rebaptized and stuff. Then I felt like I was called to be a pastor, and which I didn't teach the doctrine that most of them teach nowadays, because a lot of that is not truth. Because I started researching and I found out that the Bibles and stuff that they use nowadays have been rewritten 20 some times and all this and that. And I started researching ancient biblical text and all that, and found out that they removed there was 300 or 400 books, then they only come down to like 80 some. Then they ended up removing 19 or 20 books. Then they come down with the books of 66 per the Bible. And there's a lot of stuff that they teach in doctrine that's man-made. It's not even biblical. And so I went from being my mom and them was raised Pentecostal and Baptist, and I ended up being non-denominational. I don't do the doctrines. I seek for the truth, the real truth. And when I started preaching and stuff, there was incidents of one night, and there was an evil entity that come. I was living in Plymouth at the time, and it woke me up out of a sound sleep. It was on a Saturday. Well, it would have been Sunday morning. It'd been around 3:00, around 3:30 in that area of time. This evil entity come. It was on the outside of my house, and it woke me up. And I mean, the hair and everything was standing up. I was scared. I was shaking, and I didn't know what was going on. Then I heard it walking on the outside of the bedroom wall, outside of the bedroom on the outside wall. And I hear this growling, garbled, kind of unrecognizable noises that seemed like some kind of language, and with a growl and all this and that in it. And then I ended up sitting up in the bed, and the window was right at the head of my bed. Now the wall in the bedroom's on the ground. It's a single story house, so the window's right at about 3 foot above ground level. And this shadow goes by the window, and it goes toward the front of the house, and I'm really shaking. I'm trembling, and not knowing what's going on. I mean, I went from a dead sleep to woke up, and instantly it's everything in your body's shaking and vibrating. You're scared, and I'm like, what's going on? And like I said, I heard this gurgling, growling stuff out beside the window and stuff. Then it comes around the front of the house. We had a small porch, and we had a banner of Jesus with these lambs on the front porch hanging. And it got to there, and then it really started growling and carrying on and making some kind of language. I don't know if it was ancient Greek or what it was, but it was some kind of language. And then I started praying, and then I called for Archangel Michael to come and defend me. And then all at once there was just like a big bright light outside, and I mean it was coming through the windows in the house and everything, lit the whole entire inside of the house up, the whole outside. I mean, just like you stepped out right in the middle of sun, right in the middle of the sun. Then all at once it was just and gone. And then I got peaceful and calm, and I'm like, well, that's over with. And so I go back to sleep, get up about 7 o'clock because I'm going to church. Get up, get around, get my coffee, get dressed, and everything, and we're going out to get into the truck. At the time, we had a truck to go to church that morning, Sunday services, and I get in the truck. My wife, she gets in the driver's side of the truck, and she looks back at me. She said, "What is all that blood in front of there's the sidewalk? Then there's a porch, and there was a flower bed between the sidewalk and the porch." And she said, "What's all that blood in my flower bed? What did you kill and skin there?" I said, "I didn't kill nothing. The hunting season's been out for 3 months. I ain't killed nothing. This is early spring." She said, "There's blood there." I said, "There shouldn't be no way there should be blood there." And she said, she gets out of the truck, "Come out here, I'll show you." We walked over there. She said, "Right there," and it was a puddle of looked like blood liquid. And she stuck her finger in it. She said, "See that? That's blood." But I never told her what went on that night. And so we ended up, I'm like, I ain't skint nothing out in front of the house. It's hunting season's been over with for like 3 months. And I'm like, and I didn't say nothing. We go on to church. We get to church, go up and get in our pew where we sit all the time. And this pastor friend of mine, he usually come in about 5 minutes before church start. He comes in, comes around shaking everybody's hand. He comes up to me and he goes to shake my hand. He said, "You had a battle last night, didn't you? And you won, didn't you?" I'm looking at him like, "Well, how you know this? I ain't told nobody." He said, "Yeah, you had a battle last night. It showed up at your house." And I'm like, "Yeah, it did." I said, "It left too." And he said, "Yeah." And that was as far as it went. And my wife's looking at me, and she goes, "What is he talking about?" I said, "I'll tell you after church and stuff what went on."
Wow.
It's crazy things.
Wow. There's so much there to unpack. Like, so why do you think that, like we always hear, like Leah's over here said, the witching hour lore of the 3 a.m. As far as like the religious stuff and that goes, why is that such a the norm time?
Well, they say that Jesus was crucified around 3 o'clock in the day. So the devil has his 3 o'clock for his reign at 3 a.m. So he's mirroring the crucifixion, the power of the crucifixion, and now he's releasing his power at 3 a.m. in the dark. The evil does not like the light, so that's the reason it's 3 a.m.
Fair enough. All right. Well, that's really interesting. Like, I was waiting for you to come back to the Jesus and the Lamb banner, and that's where I thought this was going to go. Is that was all torn up or missing or something? And
No, it was right there, right in front of the blood. The pool of blood was right in front of that banner, on the edge of the porch, between the sidewalk and the concrete porch and the flower bed, right in front of that banner.
so what do you take that as? Do you think it was like just a Bigfoot out there, or do you think it was? I mean, do you think just random Bigfoot out there eating something, or do you think it was demonic? What do you think it was?
It was demonic because it was. I mean, it totally. I'm not a scary person, and now I was shaking. Then I was scared bad. I didn't have no idea what it was because I never seen it. Like I said, all I seen was a big dark shadow go by the window, bedroom window. Now, where this house is right in the middle of houses. I mean, we're on in a city with streets here, streets and alleys here, and houses all around. I mean, it's probably 300 to 500 yards to the river, but we was in the city limits, and the city limits went right to the river. And I mean, we was in a populated area. There's only trees are on the edge of the streets. That's the only trees there is. It's a what you call a neighborhood. Wasn't no woods until like 200 or 300 yards away past the other streets. But I can't. It was demonic, whatever it was. The only thing I could figure out, it was a demon trying to come and stop me from preaching or what it was doing. I don't know. That's what I got. And then my friend was a pastor, and when he come up and told me that, and I'm like, well, how did he know?
Mm-hmm.
But he knew my name before I ever met the man, because one church service, we was sitting there in the church right before church started. Him and his wife come in. I'd never seen these people, never knew who they were or anything. And they come around, we introduced and shaking hands and everything for services. Well, after services, we was going out to get in the vehicle to leave after church and stuff. And he comes out hollering at me as I'm walking towards my truck. And he comes up and he said, "Brother, I wanted to say hi and thank and talk to. Was glad to meet you and stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm glad to meet you and stuff." And this, and we shaking hands, and he was hugging me. He said, "Well, God told me to do something for you," and he was shaking my hand. He put a piece of paper in my hand. And me, I'm not the type of person. I ain't going to look right at something when you give it to me, because. So I stuck it in my shirt pocket. And we said our goodbyes and stuff. And he said, "Well, I'll see you next Sunday if I don't see you before." I said, "Okay." I said, "I live in Plymouth." Told him my address and stuff. I said, "Stop by. We'll have coffee or whatever." And so I get in the truck, and we're getting ready to pull out of the parking lot. And my wife said, "Well, what did he give you? What did you put in your shirt pocket?" And I reached in my shirt pocket. I said, "I don't know. He gave me a piece of paper." I reached in my shirt pocket and opened it up, and here's a $75 check wrote out in my name to me. And I'm like, well, at the time I needed $70 to pay my electric bill because it was due, and I didn't have the money at the time. And but we hadn't told nobody about it. We'd figured out how some way to come up with it if I'd have went junking or something and made the money. And she goes, "Well, I guess we can pay the electric bill. God sent us the money to pay the electric." And I never met this man in my entire life. This was the first time I ever seen him. And I'm like, well, how did he know my name? He had my name spelled on it right and everything. And I handed her to her and showed her. And she goes, "Well, evidently it had to be from God." I'm like, how did he know my name?
Wow.
But we become real good friends and stuff. And he was a pastor. And me and him started a church and stuff. And then he ended up getting sick and passing away. Then we just closed the church because didn't have the finances to run it.
I'm sorry to hear that. Wow, that's really cool. You know, we've had a couple like really interesting like angel stories and stuff on here, and it kind of sounds like that was one of it. You know, like this guy kind of, you know, knew what you needed and was there on a mission, and that's really cool that you got to, you know, be friends with him and stuff after that, and keep that relationship going, I guess. So.
He was a very talented person, really smart. He knew he had Bibles and studied in different languages and everything. I mean, he had old Bibles from way back in the 1600s and something. He had original Bibles and stuff, and he was a well-versed person in religion.
Very cool. Very cool. Wow. So you've had you had mentioned that you had some other encounters with things while you were training to be a pastor and stuff.
Well, this was before that. I've had encounters with I had friends that hung around. They was older couple and stuff that they lived at a little town just a couple miles down the road from where I lived and stuff. I hung out with some of their kids that was my age and stuff, and I'd go down there and stay with them. And they had a haunted. They claimed their house was haunted, and the woman called him George, and it was haunted. I come to find out it was haunted because it was in the winter one time, and they come and got me to come stay all night with them, sit around and talk and stuff. We used to go out in the country, driving around, looking. She's one that told me about when she was a girl. She had encounters at seeing Bigfoot when she was a girl and stuff. And at the time I was hanging around them, I wasn't into hunting, looking for Bigfoot or anything. I was only 19. No, I've been like 20, 21. And I wasn't out looking for no Bigfoot or anything like that. And she was telling these stories of when she was a child and stuff about where they lived out in the country. It was out next to the area where I hunted and where I've had sightings and where they took my deer and in the same area. And this was back in the 50s when it was happening to them. So that was even before the Patterson Gimlin film or anything. And so I think it was 56, 57 and stuff when I think she said she was 11, 12-year old and stuff when they seen him. I seen it out there. And so I was staying at their house, and it was wintertime because the roads got bad and they couldn't take me back to where I lived out in the country to my mom and dad's. And so I stayed all night, and they let me sleep. Told me, made me a bed on the living room on the couch in the living room. And their house was an big old 2-story house, and it was on the right of way that back in the trade days they had the underground railroads in places in Ohio. Well, that little town there's the underground railroad tunnels there, and went by their house underneath, just off to the outside of their house underneath, because there was a opening on the other. They claimed out in the one cemetery outside of town that there was a headstone you could move, and that's where they come up out of one of the tunnels. And like I said, they made me a bed on the couch, and they had the house wasn't that warm, so they had a electric heater setting right in front of me, about 4 foot in front of the couch, so that I would not get really cold. And they'd went to bed, and I laid down on the couch, covered up, was going to go to sleep. And it's probably 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. We sat up, drunk coffee, and talked and visited. And it's getting to probably around 1:30. I just started to doze off. And it was a strange house, so it took me a little longer to go to sleep. And just as I started to doze off, I felt something grab me, and I'm like, I went like that, and there's nothing above me. And I'm sleeping with my arms like this upon my chest underneath the blanket. And I'm trying to move, and I can't move. It's a holding me, it's squeezing me. And I'm looking, I seen the whole room. I see this heater and everything's going. I see in the kitchen, they have the light on the stove was on and all that. I mean, it went completely dark. And I'm looking, and I can't move. I'm trying to get up. I'm trying to turn. I can't do nothing. And it just keeps squeezing me and squeezing me tighter. And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, is it a ghost trying to hold me down, or what is it? What is going on here? I mean, there's nothing above me, but I can't move. So I said, you need to quit and let go of me. And then it was gone. And I'm like, this is crazy now. And then I got up and I went in the kitchen, and I sat in the kitchen at the kitchen table, because their bedroom was off to the side, but they had a door and stuff. And I sat at the kitchen table the rest of the night. I didn't go back in there and go back to bed. It was just, I didn't want to deal with it no more. And I got up and told the next morning, they got up and I told them about it. And he said, "Oh, that was just George. He's just playing with you." And I'm like, I don't like it. I don't want to deal with that either. And then they've had me come stay all night before, but they put me in another room. They said, "Well, he won't go in there." And I stayed in that other room, and he never would come in there. But it's just crazy.
So you never saw anything, just felt it.
Just felt something holding me down, squeezing me like you bear hugging somebody. And I couldn't move. I couldn't get up. I couldn't twist. I couldn't do nothing.
Interesting. Had they had a similar encounter in that room?
They had their son-in-law. They did it to him a couple of times, and one time it put a pillow over his head trying to suffocate him. He didn't like him.
At least George was nicer to you. He just wanted to give you a hug. He didn't want to, smother you. And so, geez.
But yeah, we've been sitting there, and then the upstairs they had, the old-fashioned radios, the big long ones with the TV and all that in it, the big cabinet. You could hear it slide across the floor, and you'd hear it open the top where the radio and stuff was, and you'd hear the radio turn on, and you'd hear it change the channels, and then it'd get to a certain station, and that's it. And she'd holler, "Hey, George, turn that off. Quit burning my electric." And he'd turn it off, and you'd hear it slide. It's crazy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So he's got to be a more modern ghost, at least, if he knew how to use the radio and turn on the TV and stuff,
Yeah. Well, they said that he would have been. Look, the clothing that she said she's seen him, that he had like a top hat and like big dress coat and stuff. He was like in the 20s or something like that, 20s or 30s, the way they dressed then.
Very interesting. Very stylish gentleman then.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a lot of energy though, to be able to move objects and turn on things and stuff like that. So
yeah. Another place we lived at, and this was when my daughter was about 5. Yeah, she was about 5 years old. We lived in a place in a town we lived in for years and years, and it was a two-story house, but it was right beside the funeral home. And the attic was big enough to be bedrooms and stuff. And when I went up there one time and there was newspapers that was stacked up in a triangle shape, and they was from the 40s and 50s. I knew it after I got them and took them downstairs and was looking at them and stuff. And my wife told me, said, "Now you better put them back up there where they belong, because they've been there that long." And they was they was not wrinkled or nothing. They rolled up and all that. She said, "You better take them back up there and put them back up there. And when you get done looking at them, you could buy a pair of Red Wing shoes for $12 back then, and you could buy a Western Flyer bicycle for like $18 back then." And it was neat looking at that stuff. And so I didn't take them back up there. I put them up in the cabinet. I'm like, "These are old, man. I want to take care of these." And I put them up in a cabinet. I shouldn't have done. Well, the next 2 or 3 nights, I'd get up to go to the restroom in the middle of the night, and the bathroom light would be on. And I'm like, okay, maybe my daughter got up in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom, and left the light on. I'd turn it off. You had to come through the living room, then you come across the hallway, then to our bedroom, and the kitchen was down the hallway, and her bedroom was down the hallway. And I look, and the kitchen light would be on. So I went down there and turned the kitchen light off, come back, got in the bed. Now, this happened for a couple nights, and I didn't say nothing. And my daughter, she would talk to somebody in her room, and I'm like, went in there one day, and she was just talking away to them. And I'm like, "Who are you talking to?" She said, Jessica. I'm like, who's Jessica? Is that your make-believe friend? Because she's only like 5 years old. No, she's real. She's right over there. Ain't nothing there. I said, who is Jessica then? She said, what's the little girl? This house burnt and her and her family died. Well, when I was upstairs in the attic looking for them around and stuff, and when I found them newspaper stuff, I seen the wood in the top of on the ceiling in the attic under the roof and stuff was charred, smoked. So there'd been a fire. But yeah, like for 3 nights in a row, after I brought them newspapers down, they was something kept turning the lights on and leaving them on. And then I had my daughter go out there. And one morning, took her in the bathroom. I said, reach and see if you can turn that light on. She said, well, Daddy, I can't turn that light on. So she reached, and she was about 4 or 5 inches too short. I took her in the kitchen, the same thing, and she's like 4 or 5 inches too short. And I'm like, okay. And my wife said, what's going on? I said, well, I get up the last 2 or 3 nights. The lights have been on in the bathroom. Then I turn it off and I come to the bedroom. And on the way to the bedroom, the kitchen light's on. I turn it off. She said, did you put them newspapers back when you got them from? I said, no. She said, take them newspapers back up there and put them where you got them and leave them alone. And I did, and they quit that. But she always kept talking to that little girl called Jessica.
So does your wife obviously believe in all that stuff too?
Oh yeah, she knows that there's ghosts and stuff. That they lived in houses when they was younger that had spirits in them. Or not her grandma, it had been her great grandma. Now she was more what you call a person that could use their mind to manipulate stuff.
Telekinesis?
More, yeah. She could, when my wife was young girl, stay with her and stuff at night and stuff, and they get bad, and she'd tell them to shut up and go to bed because she'd kept the great grandkids, daughters, and they'd be making too much racket and at bedtime, and she'd tell them, you go to bed or the booger man's coming to get you. And they started laughing and stuff, and she sat there in the living room coffee table raised up and slammed back down on the floor, and they all ran to the bedroom. And she did it several times in front of them kids. She could levitate things.
Wow. That's
she's how she learned how there's different things in this world that's beyond most people's minds.
That's hilarious. Like the whole fact of, like somebody learns, telekinesis to move objects. What do you do with your powers? Do you, whatever. And no, I use it to make the kids go to bed.
Yeah. But her background and stuff was Indian and other things. So I met her when we got married and stuff, and she told Renee, she told my wife, her name's Renee, she looked at him and said, now you got a good man. And the first time I ever met her, and she says, you better take care of him and not be mean to him, because you're not going to get no man better than he is. And I'm like, well, she don't even know me. And we've been married for 33 years, going on 34.
Awesome. Lee Warner would like to know, going back to the last story there with the other house and the fire in Jessica, were you ever able to research the house and the fire? Was there actually a girl named Jessica? Did you ever get back to that?
No, I never researched it because this little town that it was in, they wouldn't have kept records of it and stuff. It's just a little hick town, population maybe 300-400 people. I mean, they have a library and a store and a gas station, a few little things, but to keep historical records of all that for that area, I doubt it. But the crazy thing was, we moved from there to a trailer, which was just a couple, 3 or 4 streets away. And when we was moving in there, and we got in the closet hanging up my daughter's stuff, and there's this picture, looked like it was from the 70s, or yeah, it had to be from the 70s, of this little young blonde-headed girl, and he turned it over. On the back it said Jessica. I'm like, well, hopefully she didn't follow us here. But it was crazy. It was a little picture of a little blonde-headed girl, like a little school picture, like that. Had to be in the 70s. The girl looked like she was about 10 years old at the oldest, and turned it over, and it said Jessica right on the back of it. And we asked her daughter, where'd that picture come from? She said, I don't know. I never seen that picture before. And it was in her stuff. And I'm like,
Gave her a little picture to remember her by. Did she say that
yeah,
it looked like the girl?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She said, that's Jessica. I'm like, oh, is that what she looks like, huh? He goes, yeah, that's what she looks like. And I'm like, where'd the picture come? She said, I don't have no, she didn't know where it come from. Well, then she was only like going on 6 as when she first started kindergarten, when we moved to the trailer. But it's some, like I said, it's been some weird stuff.
Sounds like it. Wow. So weird. I wonder, I don't know. We already talked about, like how kids are more open and stuff when they're younger and that. I wonder if maybe she saw the picture first and that's where she got it, or did it manifest the picture? And did she ever talk to Jessica after that when you guys had moved?
First I remember, no, she never. After we moved to the trailer and stuff, and I asked her so a couple of times after that, like a couple of weeks, 3 weeks after we moved there and stuff, I said, "Did your friend Jessica come with you?" And she goes, "No, she stayed at the house." And never heard her talking to nobody after that no more either.
That's weird. Wow. Wow. So let's see. What else have we got that we got to recover here? You talked about seeing some lights and orbs and shadow figures out in the woods as well.
Yeah, that was the lights and orbs was when we was doing Bigfoot research. But before that, I mean, I've had encounters out in the woods that I didn't know what it was, like in the hills of Kentucky when I was probably 10 years old. I'd been down to my friend's house playing, and it got dark, and I had to go up the holler by myself because I was down there at their house playing. And in the hollers, Kentucky, there's no lights. I mean, it's completely, when you get away from somebody's house that's got a pole light, it's pitch black. And I was coming up the holler, and I hear this like a woman screaming up on the hill. There was an old cemetery up on the hill, had like 3 or 4 graves. And then there was a patch of pine trees that was like, there's only like 100 and some feet up the hill from the road. And I hear this like a woman screaming. I mean, it's loud. Every hair on my body stood up. I come to a dead stop when it first started. And I'm looking up her, and this thing is screaming and screaming and screaming. And I'm like, buddy, back then you run around barefooted. I was patting them feet up that hill, that road to the house. I had almost half a mile to run, and I ran uphill almost a half a mile. And there's like when I was 16, we moved to Ohio, and we started hunting and stuff up here, coon hunting and all kinds of different hunting. And one night we was coon hunting, and we was over in front of the house where we lived, and there was probably 150 acres of woods over in front of the house, but you had to cross 2 fields to get to the woods. We had to cross the road, then 2 fields to get to the woods. And me and 2 of my brothers was in there hunting one night, and we had my dad's black and tan and a red bone with us. And the black and tan dog, he did not like strangers. He hated people that strange people. He would absolutely bite you if he didn't know you. And we're over here hunting in the woods, and we'd only been gone from the house probably 20 minutes. Then made the first turn of loose with the dogs. And they was gone for about 15 minutes or so, because it took us probably almost 5 minutes or so to walk to the woods. And we're standing there waiting on the dogs to tree. Then all once we hear them coming back, and then they run right between our legs and get between the three of us. We're me, my older brother, and then brother younger than me, and we all had coon hunting lights. And these dogs get between us, and I'm like, what is going on? And I know the black and tan ain't afraid of no human being. If it's a human being in the woods, they better be watching out for him, because he didn't like strangers. And then he's sitting there with all the hair on his back standing up and his tail between his legs. And I'm like, something going on. Then we started hearing something walking around us in the woods, bipedal. And I'm like, well, we sitting there, well, somebody's trying to prank us. Somebody strange is in the woods. That's the reason he come back. I said, no, if it's somebody strange, he'd be tearing them up. I said, whatever it is, he's not wanting nothing to do with it. And this dog's probably 70, 80-pound dog. I mean, he's not no little dog. And we're taking our lights and we're shining. We're three of us, three different directions, so we could cover all 360 degrees around us. And these lights we're using now, these are mining lights that they use in the coal mines and stuff, and they will shine 40 or 50 feet easily in the darkest that you can get it. And well, in timber, you're not going to see much more than 60 or 70 feet or 100 feet at the most. And we're shining and we ain't seeing nothing, but we keep hearing this thing walk around us outside of the light shine. And we're standing there trying to figure out, was it my dad? And well, if it was my dad, we're saying, well, if it's my dad, Blackie boy would have went to him. We'd just thought he was gone, and said, well, it's not him. So, and I know it's not nobody strange that the dog don't know, or he would have been trying to bite him. And we're going, wonder what is it? Like I said, we never thought Bigfoot was real or anything in. And so I said, well, let's go back. The dogs, let's go toward the other end of the woods. And we're starting that way. And the dogs would not leave us. And he said, well, me and my older brother said, well, we might as well go on back toward the house. The dogs ain't going to hunt. And so we start out of the woods and we get it going across the field. And soon we got out into the field. I said, let's turn our lights off and we'll see if it's if the dogs are being stupid or if somebody's trying to scare us or what. I said, let's walk out in the middle of that field away from the woods with all our lights off and see what comes out to the outside edge of the woods. If it's a person or what's in there making the dogs act this way. So we get out about a couple 100 yards out in the field. But we turned our lights off as soon as we got out in the field where we didn't have to worry about tripping over sticks. So we walked like 200 and some yards out in the field. We stand and turn around. We all looking toward the woods. And there's probably 500 yards of 500 feet or so of wood line. And we stood there and nothing never did come out. You could hear it walk up to the edge of the woods. Then you could hear it walk down the woods so far, and then it'd turn around and walk back and go that way so far, then it'd turn around and come back. It just kept pacing back and forth in the woods. Never would come out. So we just got tired up and went on to the house and put the dogs up and quit for the night. But yeah, there's been some crazy stuff. The orbs and stuff I've seen. The lights was out in the area where I used to hunt and stuff, where I've got pictures of Bigfoot and stuff. Seen orbs out there. Had one night we was out there investigating. They was me, my wife, and another guy. Well, the first time it was just me and my wife, and we was sitting there, and we could hear them walking around in the woods over here and right in front of us. We was only sitting like 15 feet from the woods, and we could hear them walking back and forth, and they watching us and stuff. And all at once, it was just like somebody took a camera and the bright light just flashed, lit everything up all the way around us and in the woods everywhere. And I'm like, what the heck was that? And I'm looking around, and there's no houses in a mile of that place. We're on a dirt road, and the nearest blacktop road's almost a mile away, and no way it could have been headlights flashed. And I'm like, what was that? And she says, I have no idea. And then we started hearing this metallic electric motor humming noise, and I'm like, what is that? And it's coming from toward in the area in the woods in front of us. And I'm like, well, there's 3 miles to the nearest town that way. There's one road, probably 2.5 miles that way, just a country road. And there's only like 4 or 5 houses. And there's no kind of machinery or anything that would have been running at that time of night. There's no machine shops or anything would be running a generator or anything like that to make that noise. And she got a real eerie feeling, and she started getting sick, and she said, we need to go. It's getting bad. It's bad here. For some reason, there's something bad here. And so we get in the vehicle and we leave. So it was like a week or something later. We went back out there. This time, one of her friends that lived by us in the apartment complex we lived in before, he wants to go out with us. So he follows us out there, and we're go to the same location. And we're sitting there. And it's probably 9:45, somewhere around that time, 9:30 to 9:45, and it's completely dark. And Renee walked off to my left a little bit on the gravel driveway there, parking area. She was looking back in the timbers, listening and stuff back in the woods. And me and him was over here. I was sitting by the car, and he was standing on my right side. And it did it again. Big, bright flash of light. And he jumps, and he goes, what was that? And I'm like, he goes, it's like somebody's headlights or a camera flashed. It lit everything up. And I'm like, it did this the last time we was over here. I said, I have no idea what it is. And when it did it, Renee come walking in. She said, well, there's it again. So, and he goes, do you know what it is? I'm like, no. And I said, it happened the last time we was out here. It did that. And he said, well, I'm leaving. I'm going home. And so he gets in his vehicle and leaves. And we decided to sit there a few more minutes to see what happens. Well, here comes that electric humming again. And I'm like, she started getting real nervous and sick like. And then she said, it's time to go. It's whatever that is evil. It's not got something. It's not good. And so we got and left again. But the orbs, we've seen them at Salt Fork a couple times. Then it's either right after we have an encounter with Bigfoot down there, or it's right before. And sometimes but they're just, and then I had orbs here in the house just right before my brother passed away. They had something slapped the side of the house. Then I was in the bed laying, and I woke up, and there's this silverish gold, it was a silverish white looking orb about this big around, right in front of my closet. And then when I started to raise up, it went into the closet and was gone out the outside wall, the same wall that was just got slapped that woke me up. And then it was probably 5 minutes later. I got maybe 5 minutes. I got up, started walking toward the closet to see what it was. And then there's this little red one, like a laser dot, comes out under my bed, zips past me, and goes right through into the closet and out and through the wall. And I'm like, now what is that? What is going on here? And I went over into the closet and I moved because we had clothes hanging there, and I moved the clothes. There's nothing on the wall or nothing. And I'm like, am I seeing things? Is it playing things on my mind or what's going on? And I have no clue about them. But like I said, we've seen them out in the woods too. But they're different colors. Some of them are white. Some of them are reddish looking. Some of them have got a bluish tint to them. But it's some crazy stuff.
Lee wanted to know, the one in your house in the closet there, was that about 3:30 in the morning as well?
It probably would have been somewhere's around that, because it's usually I wake up around that time every night. I have to go to the restroom. So yeah, it was somewhere's in that area around that time.
Interesting. So going back to the motor hum and the light, would you said it wasn't a generator or anything like that. Did it sound to you like a phone vibrating?
It was something similar to that. Yeah. It
But
was
obviously very loud, but the same kind of sound.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. So let me tell you this story. So we were up in Upper Michigan on this private property investigating one night, and it's a dead end road. So there's one house past where we're at, and there's, I don't remember, it was night, it was dark out, and we're hearing this sound coming from the road area, but it's coming from the dead end of the road. And it sounded like a phone vibrating, and it would get louder and louder and louder, and then it would kind of gradually pass like it went past. But it took forever to go past. And then it would do it again from the same spot, and it would come and go past again. And it did this several times. It's like as if it was like an ATV or something going down the road. But there's no way it could have been. Like I said, there's one house past the property where we were at. They have a truck. That's it. No ATVs. They don't drive around like that. And it wasn't like a motor. It was just this.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Well, that's like when that was that light and stuff, the humming was going on. Well, just say like you was sitting in a room, no windows, pitch black, dark. And it's just like the outside has the door, and just like somebody opened the door and it's all light out there and just opened it and then shut it back. Now that's what it looked like. Like something opened the big door that lit everything up. Then it was that instant, it was gone. So I have no idea if it was some kind of spacecraft or whatever is causing this and that humming, but that's what it looked like. Somebody just opened the door, bright light behind it, lit everything up as when the door opened, and then just shut back. That's the way it went twice. Now we was down at Salt Fork one night on Devil's Knob, first night I ever went to Devil's Knob. And they was like 13 of us in a group. We was down there for a camp out and stuff. Now we went to Devil's Knob for an investigation that night, and we had a guy there that had all kinds of audio equipment. He had directional mics and everything hooked up to a soundboard and recorders and everything. I mean, he's got this whole system, and he can hear for miles with this system. He's got all this set up. We're all in this parking area, and then everybody starts weeding out, looking, going down the gravel road, because it's all gravel road area in there. You're nowhere near houses. You're miles from houses because you're right in the middle of the park. Mm-hmm. And people's going down the gravel road. There's a couple hiking trails. People were going down them. I stood around the parking area because my legs don't work that good. And there was other couple people, and the guy with the sound equipment was set up by his vehicle. And we'd been there probably 15 minutes. Enough time for him to get all this sound equipment set up, get his mics and everything tweaked in to where he can hear what all the different directions. And people started scattering out. And he starts picking up this noise. And what you could hear it with your ear is like something beating on a big steel drum. And it go boom, 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 boom. Now, like I said, this started about 15 minutes after we got there. And we stayed there probably for almost 2 hours. And until I started getting sick, and then other people started getting sick, and we'd all decided it's time to leave. I don't know what it was, infrasound or what it was that affected us. Then that metal beating sound, there's no kind of oil rigging or wells or anything in this area. There's no kind of metal anywhere around that area should be where they can be beaten on. And but it went on from like 15 minutes after we got there till we left. And he had it on all recorded and all this. Then you hear this every now and then. You hear this, then you'd hear the thum, thum on metal, and you'd hear and it's like a vibration of a phone, then thum, thum. That was just crazy as night. But like I said, I got sick, and there was three men that got sick that night, but it didn't affect the females, and it didn't affect the guys that was up in their age. It was the guys that was in their, like, from their 30s to their, well, I would have been like 50s, 57 then. And but if the guys that was like 60 some and older, it didn't affect, and the women it didn't affect. And it was just strange. I mean, you could just feel it just unsettling when you were standing there. The longer I stood there, the more unsettling it got, the sicker I got. And then when we started to leave, only got down the gravel road probably a half mile. The symptoms started letting up. The time I got to the blacktop road, which was probably 2 miles, I was totally fine again. It's just weird.
One of our comments section here says, Flat Rockland says, I talked about that sound on Doug's show. He said, I heard what sounded like a pile driver, a click deep into the bush at 2 a.m. And I don't, mentioning it, like you said, so many stories and stuff. I remember when we first started investigating here in Wisconsin, we were down in the Burlington woods. And every time that we had any kind of like weird Bigfoot activity start up, we would hear again this, not a metal drum, but like a big bass drum, like a boom, boom. And it was very, what do you call it? Rhythmic, like one, yeah, and then wait, and then one, and then wait. And the weird thing is we had GoPros that we were recording all this when we were down there investigating, and it would vibrate the lens of the GoPro. So not only could you hear it on the audio, but the lens would slightly vibrate a little and go out of focus right when you'd get this boom.
Yeah. That's some crazy stuff that you can't explain what goes on when you're doing it. That's like my wife and them, they've been out a couple of times, and then we have like a digital recorder. It does night digitally, night. You can see at night with it. It has an hour and stuff. Mm-hmm. And when she says, well, I'm going to take the hour camera and go out tonight and investigate and stuff. She get there and it won't work, and it's fully charged. Gets to the area, go to turn it on, it won't even come on. Get up and get away from that area, a couple, 2 or 3 miles, reach over and it'll turn right on. I'm like, what is it? And we had two night visions. Did the same thing the same night. Two different people had night visions. And I just sold the girl the one, and it had rechargeable batteries in it. And it was recharged, brand new rechargeable batteries that been recharged. When I sold it to her, it was fully charged. She took it out that night, and another person had one, and they did put brand new batteries in it, and then our camera wouldn't work. There was three cameras there that night that would not work. But as soon as we got away from that area, all three of them turned on. All three of them had full batteries. It was some crazy stuff. You can't explain why it won't work in that area. You can't even get it to turn on. It's like it's dead batteries. And you go to another area 20 minutes later, turn it on, it's full batteries.
Yep. I've had that multiple times. All kinds.
And we ended up getting EMF meters, but I ain't been out with since we got them to see. Now my wife's had them out and said when things start happening, she turns them on and she'll get EMF readings. But like I said, I ain't been out to do it yet.
Wow.
But when you get activity and stuff, yeah, there's EMF. She said the EMF will go off, and other people say they're starting to carry Geiger counters and stuff, and they pick up radiation now when there's activity and stuff. Some crazy things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. I don't know. It's all connected, all weird, just strange world we live in.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, we are at the end of the show here, man. I got to thank you again for coming back. I knew that this was going to be a good one. The Bigfoot episode that we had. If anybody hasn't got a chance to listen to that, head on over. Same network on the Untold Radio Network here. There is a Monsters on the Edge with Tim as well. Go listen to that. There's a whole bunch of Bigfoot stories on there. Amazing stuff all about your research in Bigfoot and the encounters and all the stuff at Salt Forks, and even a weird Dogman story towards the end there as well. So really great episode if you're interested in that. But Tim, Ohio Bigfoot Researchers, you got a Facebook group. You have a YouTube channel. Tell us all about it.
We have Ohio Bigfoot Researchers on Facebook. Come and join the group. Please read the questions and answer them, and you will become a member. YouTube, we've got 20-some videos up. I just put a short up last night, yesterday evening, and it's almost up to 300 views already. And so come and join and subscribe. Hit the like button, share it. And you'll see a lot of our research on YouTube, and there's in our group there's all kinds of pictures and videos and stuff of what we've captured, and it's all 100% real. I don't fake nothing. I don't make anything up, and I sure don't exaggerate what we've encountered or what we find. It's all 100% the truth, and that's the way it will be as long as I'm able to do it.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of videos, a lot of pictures and stuff on your Facebook page and stuff, and we looked at a bunch of that on the last episode as well. If anybody's interested, go check that out on YouTube. And great shows, both of them here. So I really appreciate your time. Really appreciate having you on again.
Well, thank you, Barnabas, for having me back on, and thanks everyone for that's watched and share it out. If you think your friends would be interested, to share his channel, share all his videos. He's a very good person, and I thank him for having me back on the show again. And if you ever want to do any more, let me know. We have some more Bigfoot encounters and that we didn't make it to.
Absolutely. I know we were talking about some interesting Dogman stuff at the beginning of before we went live as well that we didn't get to today, but definitely more to explore here, guys. So if you like Tim, give it a like, give it a share, and let me know, and we will have him back on, and you can follow him back to the Bigfoot channel or the Monsters on the Edge instead. And we'll just keep bouncing back and forth, man. That sounds great.
All right. This is great. I enjoy the time being here, and I enjoy you talking with you.
I appreciate it, man. I really do.
If you're ever in Ohio, look me up, and we'll go out to a couple areas here and see what we can see.
Absolutely. I would love to get back to Salt Fork. We went there for a convention a couple of years ago, and we had I chased something on thermal down one of the little creeks there. And I have no idea what it was, but it was big and it disappeared on me. So I don't know. I'm not.
Well, there's plenty of them there.
Yeah.
Plenty of them there. I mean, we've had road sightings, cross right in front of the vehicle. We thought we was going to hit it that night. And like I said, we've encountered them down there in many different places. And it's the number one hot spot in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Salt Fork is, but I can take you to areas around here. It's not quite as known for Bigfoot as Salt Fork, but they're there. I can take you to one place. I know there's a couple there. There's one 12-footer there that he's been there for a long time, and then there's a juvenile, and I got a picture of him 2 years ago, and I just got a picture of him this fall in November. And he's grown. He went from being like 6 foot to almost 8 foot, and his head went from my size to this size.
Wow, man. Well, I will definitely look you up next time that we are over in Ohio. So I know we get there times a year, so hopefully. So I will give you a call next time I get a chance, man.
Yeah, because I'm up in the northern part of Ohio, up next to Lake Erie. So if you're anywhere in this area, let me know.
Sounds good, man. I definitely will. All right, well, you take care. Thanks for coming on again, and I will talk to you soon.
You take care, and everybody out there be blessed, and talk to you all later.
Have a great day, man. All right, guys, that is our show for this week here on the Paranormal Spectrum. I want to remind you all to go and check out Tim's Ohio Bigfoot Researchers on Facebook and YouTube. The links are in the show notes for you guys to go check out. Give them a like, give them a subscribe, share, as well as go check out his other episode here on Monsters on the Edge, my Monday show, and hear all of his Bigfoot encounters. Not all of them, but a good deal of them. Great show as far as that goes. Great show again today. Hopefully, guys, remember to like, subscribe, and share all things here on the Untold Radio Network and Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society for all my research. You can check out all the Burlington Woods stuff that we did. The very first episode, our very first Caps road trip episode, you can actually go in there and watch what I was talking about with the drum beat and the camera vibrating just a little bit. Really good stuff there. So that was our very first episode we ever put out. So check that out as well while you're online, and because you have nothing better to do with your life, I guess. I don't know. Hopefully you're interested in this stuff. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching the show. So until next time, guys, remember, we're all part of the Paranormal Spectrum. Take care, be well, and I'll see you next week. You seem to know something I don't. What's going